Very good. Okay. We will go ahead and get started. I am very pleased to have all of you attending this webinar training today. My name is Jill Nagy Reynolds. I am with the SBA Columbus District Office. And this training today is a part of a series of trainings leading up to the Ohio Business Matchmaker. And all of the trainings that we are hosting are to help prepare you for the actual Matchmaker event, which will be on April 23rd and 24th at the Nutter Center in Dayton. We will have copies of this recording and the slides available on the Ohio Business Matchmaker website. It's been posting really fast, so within, I would say, 48 hours, it will be posted. So if you wanted to go back and take a look at the slides or listen to the recording again, you're more than welcome to do that. Uh, it is my honor today to have Stacy Cornett from uh, the Ohio Department of Development. She's the Deputy Chief, Office of Business Certifications, Office of Minority Business. She's going to talk about small business certifications with the state of Ohio. But before we dive into her presentation, we're going to learn a little bit more about the Ohio Apex Accelerator and the services that they provide. And then after Stacy's presentation, you will also hear from the SBA office on federal certifications. So, uh, one thing I would like to say, certifications are a tool that greatly assist your business in doing business with the government, but they are not a requirement on all solicitations. So just keep that in mind. There's no such thing as a bad question as we're going through this. Please put your question into the chat and we will do our best to answer them at an appropriate time so that it just flows with the presentation. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Deja, and then we'll go from there. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. As Jill said, thank you very much for that introduction. My name is Deja Johnson. I am the program specialist for the Ohio Apex Accelerator, and that's just a fancy way of saying that I can support a ton of the Ohio Apex Accelerator programs, and I want to go over some of what we do at the Ohio Apex Accelerator and how that ties into our presentation today. To start, of course, I want to let you know the Ohio Apex Accelerator is one part of a national organization that is partially funded by the Department of Defense. And essentially, our role in the Department of Defense is to help small businesses establish and maintain a presence in the government marketplace. And there are essentially three phases of support that we'll offer at the Apex Accelerator. At the beginning, helping clients become procurement ready. We'll also help small businesses once they've established some of those foundational pieces to actually find contracts and experience that government contracting success, and even still help the small businesses after achieving and winning awards to perform and stay in the government marketplace. So starting with, again, that first leg of the Ohio Apex Accelerator support, or national Apex, we all do the same thing essentially. And becoming procurement ready, there's a lot of different pieces. Companies have to be able to navigate and access the appropriate databases so that they can find opportunities as well as position their business in a ready position or space so that they can again compete. So we help with helping small businesses to achieve registration and access in databases such as sam.gov, Govology, et cetera, some of the places where you'll find some of those government contracts, as well as supporting small businesses in identifying appropriate business certifications, and then, of course, achieving said certification so that they can qualify for specific government contracts related to the composition of their business. And positioning the business so that it is ready for those opportunities when it finds them. We can also help develop capability statements, which essentially is like a resume for the small business in the government marketplace. And we also help small businesses in terms of forecasting what the government market has to offer, and of course, comparing that with what the company can supply. Understanding the buying habits of several different agencies across the government marketplace will help to better forecast the needs and again, position each small business in a place where they can support. Additionally, the Ohio Apex Accelerator will help small businesses to grow their market or their network in the government space by in-person and virtual training events and matchmaking events, similar to, of course, the Ohio Business Matchmaker that the Ohio Apex Accelerator is helping out with this year, helping to identify some of those additional resources to find bids. All these things help small businesses become ready to engage in the procurement marketplace. Knowing the who, having the what you need in terms of certifications, capability statements, and of course, understanding why you're in the government marketplace, what it is you have to offer, and what the government needs. Once, of course, understanding and achieving some of those foundational obstacles in terms of government marketplace, we will then move into actually helping those small businesses succeed. And that looks like finding the actual solicitations, or sorry, finding the actual RFPs and identifying what in those we can do to support and how we can support we as the small business. Once we've identified some of the appropriate opportunities, we can help small businesses in actually preparing their bids. We can review the proposal. We can help in the drafting of the proposal. However, the Ohio Apex Accelerator or Apex Accelerator will not be able to write the proposal in and of itself. We can review what you have written and, of course, then help make edits and critiques, etc. Um, and furthermore, before you have actually, or even still while you're writing the proposal, we can help to identify some of the particular parts of your past performance that are going to be leveraged so that you can demonstrate you've done this kind of work before or similar work that help for prime and subcontracting success. Once we've helped you to bid and compete for some of those government contracts, once you've achieved them, the work doesn't stop there with the Apex Accelerator. We'll be able to help small businesses stay in the government marketplace through annual compliance checks like renewing those SAM.gov registrations so that they can continue to access some of those bids and proposals that are made available by various departments in the government marketplace. And as the government marketplace continues to evolve and change, we at the Apex Accelerator are built to help those small businesses grow and change with it. In recent history, one of those examples could be some of the new cybersecurity requirements being placed on the Department of Defense contracts. We have developed a program that helps those small businesses achieve or um, establish some level of compliance with those cybersecurity requirements. We also help move beyond the uh, specific agency that those small businesses are presently enacting with and help them to find other government customers, be that in the um, federal, state, or local marketplace, helping to again grow and scale the business after that first contract. And then innovation, specifically in Ohio, of course, innovation is a really big sticking point. And then on the national scale, the various federal departments are constantly looking for small business support in innovative opportunities. And so, as it relates to small business innovation research and small business technology transfer research, sitter opportunities, the Apex Accelerator is very handy in helping to achieve and compete for some of those opportunities as well. So, in addition to, of course, helping you get established, helping you win that first contract will also help to make sure that you're constantly growing and scaling your business in the government marketplace. Lots of different ways that we do that. And of course, as the government marketplace grows and changes, the Apex Accelerator program would need to as well. And so we have augmented quite a few of our services at the Apex Accelerator to comply with some of these changes that small businesses and federal government, state and local have been making. If a particular business is looking to expand beyond the US borders, there is specific training that comes in place for foreign ownership, control, and influence that our Apex accelerators have been trained on so that they can, again, support the small businesses. I mentioned before some of the cybersecurity requirements and um, compliance tools that are being built in the Apex Accelerator world to support our defense contractors as well as some of those innovation programs like CyberSitter that I mentioned a moment ago. The Ohio Apex Accelerator is constantly undergoing professional development so that we can continue to help out some of these small business in these niche areas. Again, as well as the DPA Title III activities that arise, we ensure that we have the proper knowledge so that we can extend that information out to you all. Another way that the Apex Accelerator, specifically in Ohio, supports our small businesses is through a workforce development component. I'm happy to be the manager of the Ohio Procurement Internship Program, and essentially that is a support program from the Ohio Apex Accelerator that takes college students at two different universities to date, Youngstown State University and Ohio University, and those students engage in a 16-week specialized government contracting training course where they learn lots of foundational elements that our Ohio Apex accelerators themselves know and use. Students are able to then take that knowledge and apply it to a small business that is an Apex Accelerator client in the form of a paid internship over the summer. I'm happy to say that we are in our third year of the Ohio Procurement Internship Program, and not only extending that to two different universities and hopefully counting in the future, we've been able to see our students experience a ton of success, be that in the form of professional development in their own right, achieving full time and part time in some cases, um, extensions from their particular internship host. There's even a very well known success story in the Ohio Apex Accelerator world of a student getting offered a job from his host company and then even still performing so well that he was headhunted in a way, and now does some things that I probably aren't able to speak about at this moment. But a ton of success that our students in the Ohio Procurement Internship Program have experienced, as well as the Ohio small businesses that they support. There are, like I said, a ton of different ways that the Ohio Apex Accelerator is designed to support our small businesses. We help you to navigate the road to success by maneuvering around some of the um, standards and compliance regulations that are enacted by state, local, and federal government. As we continue to help you navigate those places through, again, just the entry level registrations to different databases so you can identify the correct opportunities, grabbing the accurate certifications so that you are able to set yourself apart from businesses that are also bidding from those opportunities, positioning yourself in form of a capability statement so that you can easily let people know what you do and how you can help. We also help you out with the market research and in the form of bid matching opportunities so that you can find what's out there, what the government needs, and how you can help, be that in the form of prime contracting or subcontracting under larger businesses, will definitely help you to expand your network. Once you've identified um, what your business can do in the federal, state, and local government marketplace, then that's where some of that proposal development and review support comes into play so that you can actually compete and earn some of those awards. And not only earning the award and winning it will also help you again thereafter you've been awarded and ensuring that successful performance is done on each of those awards as well. So this slide here is again just a way to show all of the different ways that the Ohio Apex Accelerator can support small businesses that are interested in the government marketplace. And as we're wrapping up our program year for 2024, I like to highlight some of the success that we've experienced in our previous year. And with that, I will say that the Ohio Apex Accelerator helps small businesses to achieve over 1.6 billion with a B award dollars in this past program year, and more so than just the subcontracts. These Ohio small businesses have been able to get out in front and achieve several prime contracting opportunities on federal, state, and local levels. Should you need to engage with your Ohio Apex Accelerator, of course, we are all over the state. We have offices, of course, Northeast, Central, Northwest Ohio, as well as in Appalachia and Southwestern Ohio. We also have a partner in the southern tip of Ohio as well, the South Point Apex Accelerator. If you're not already, working with your local procurement specialist, I would certainly encourage you to begin that conversation so that you can start navigating the government marketplace. The website to contact your local Apex Accelerator is here in red, find.govcontracts.ohio.gov. In addition to reaching out to any of the Apex Accelerators, I would certainly encourage you to attend the Ohio Business Matchmaker webinar series that we've been putting on since the beginning of this month. Many of those Apex Accelerator um, staff members are present and presenting throughout this series as well. So certainly encourage you to sign up for each of these webinars. And should there be any additional questions, please visit the man, the myth, the legend himself. Mr. Joey Scott is the program manager for the statewide Ohio Apex Accelerator, and his contact information is also listed on the fi.govcontracts.ohio.gov website as well. So should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to him or myself.
Deja, we did have one question that came through the Q&A
Yes,
about
ma'am.
just not being able to get a meeting scheduled with Apex. I recommended that they send us an email address and we could get with them, but I haven't seen. It was Jasmine Couch.
Absolutely.
Uh,
I'd be happy to help arrange a email introduction or facilitate that
mhm.
contact with the local procurement specialist. Jasmine
So
Couch. All right.
Jasmine, if you wouldn't mind like putting your email address and contact information into the Q&A. I'm not sure, is the chat disabled today
I
or
think the
should that?
chat function is disabled, but I can reach out to Jasmine Couch directly through just
Okay.
her information in the registration.
Okay, cool. All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you. All right, thank you so much, Deja. Deja, I appreciate it. We are going to turn it over to Stacy Crockett, who is again from the Ohio Department of Development. She is the Deputy Chief of the Office of Business Certifications within the Office of Minority Business. So very happy to have you on today, and I will go ahead and turn it over to you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Stacy Cornett, and I'm the Deputy Chief of the Office of Business Certifications. And Ms. Deja is going to run my slide deck this morning, so I want to thank her for that as well. And I just want to take a few moments to speak with you about the state of Ohio's business certifications. Next slide, please. The first program I want to talk to you about is the Minority Business Enterprise Program. And this is the state of Ohio's MBE program. And it establishes a 15% set aside procurement requirement for state agencies, boards, and commissions awarding contracts to certified minority businesses within the state of Ohio. In order to qualify for all of our programs, you must be a resident of the United States and of the state of Ohio. The Minority Business Program is an ethnicity-based program and is designed to assist minority businesses in obtaining state government contracts for goods and services. Next slide, please. The Minority Business Enterprise Program's requirements are you must be a full-time Ohio resident, be a United States citizen, possess knowledge of the business and industry in which you are requesting certification, have day-to-day control of the business, demonstrate capability or expertise of the business, and you must own and control 51% of the business. The following groups are considered minority businesses in the state of Ohio: African American or Black, American Indian, Asian, Hispanic, or Latino. Additionally, each business applied for must be a for-profit business. You must have been in operation for 1 year prior to making application for the Minority Business Enterprise Program. The benefits of our certification are contract assistance, financial bonding and assistance, management, and technical assistance. Additionally, minority business enterprise are listed in a searchable database that is housed on our website. So individuals looking to do business with a minority business have the ability to go in and search for individuals in the industry where they need a minority business. Next slide, please. The next program we're going to talk about is called our EDGE program, also known as Encouraging Diversity, Growth, and Equity. This program establishes an annual procurement goal at 5% for state agencies, boards, and commissions, as well as guidelines for state universities in awarding contracts to certified EDGE businesses. This program is an ethnicity and gender neutral program. It's designed to assist socially and economically disadvantaged businesses in obtaining state contracts in the areas of construction, architect, engineering, professional services, goods and services, and IT services. Next slide, please. As with the MBE program, you must be a United States citizen and a resident of the state of Ohio. When we look at socially disadvantaged, this is what the state of Ohio defines socially disadvantaged as, based on your ethnicity, female gender, chronic physical or mental disability, business owners' long-term residence in an environment isolated from the mainstream of American society. This is also known as a HUBZone. And we are the state of Ohio, but we use the HUBZone calculator, which is located on the SBA's website, to find and define areas that the federal government has designed as or said are historically underutilized business areas. Additionally, you must employ 35% of the workforce from a HUBZone if you reside in a HUBZone. For example, the city of Portsmouth is considered a HUBZone. So if you have a business there and you are seeking EDGE certification, you are more than likely to get certified. And the individuals who live in Portsmouth and work for your business are considered members who reside in a HUBZone. The economic disadvantages of this program: your personal net worth must be less than $750,000 at time of application. The last 3 years of your AGI must be less than $350,000. You cannot exceed the U.S. small business size standards. And based on NAICS code, your average gross receipts or employees, the fair market value of all assets for your business must be less than $6 million. And I know that sounds like a lot, but we have a program that we put this into that's able to calculate that. Once you send us stuff such as your company value worksheet, your profit and loss sheet, your personal financials, and these are all forms that are available on our website. When you make application to the EDGE program, you can download the forms, fill them out, and submit them with your application. The benefits of EDGE certification are the contract assistance, financial and bonding assistance, of course, management and technical assistance, procurement preference for contracts. Your business is listed in a searchable database. And you have the opportunity to compete for contracts from state agencies, boards and commissions, and universities, which must meet annual EDGE spending goals. Now, I'm going to pause right here and ask Jill if we have any questions in the chat that I could answer real quick before we move on.
Not yet. I don't see anything.
Okay, great. Thank you. Then we will go to the next slide and we will begin talking about the Women Business Enterprise Program. It's designed to assist women-owned businesses in obtaining contracts. The program provides certified companies an opportunity to receive reciprocal certifications with other states if an agreement between the states is in place. WBE certification became available on October 9th, 2020. Next slide, please. To be a WBE, the business must be owned and controlled by a U.S. citizen and an individual who is a resident of the state of Ohio. The individual who owns the business to be certified as 51% owned business. So that is what they look at. Has your business been certifiable? It needs to be 51% owned by a woman. You are eligible as a WBE for contract assistance, management, and technical assistance. A ability to apply with individuals that do businesses with WBEs. So the state of Kentucky, we have what is called a certification verification. And if you are a WBE and you want to do business with the state of Kentucky and they have something available, what they do is they will send us a document notice, a certification verification. We complete it and send it back to them. And in the interim, once they get that information back, they certify you for a period of time as a WBE within their state, and you're able to do contracting there. Do we have any questions on the WBE? Doesn't look like we have any. Okay,
No, I don't see any. Okay. Oh, wait. Here comes.
Oh, we have one.
Do you have a list of states with current agreements?
We don't have any current reciprocal agreements with any states, but as I said, the state of Kentucky, what they do is they take our certification and acknowledge it through a certification verification. And then you're able to do business with them for that, for the WB and the MBE program. That's what we currently have. If we could have the next slide, please, we're going to talk about our Veterans-Friendly Business Enterprise Program. And this is one of my favorite programs because I am a veteran. The Veteran-Friendly Business Enterprise Program is considered and called the Veteran-Friendly Business Enterprise Program because to apply for this program, you can be a resident of any state in the country. The state of Ohio recognizes veterans no matter where they live. You can apply for certification, submit the proper documentation, and the state of Ohio will recognize you as a veteran business. It establishes procedures for applying a preference to bids or proposals for state contracts. It's ethnicity and gender neutral program, and it provides price preference or proposal bonus points to certified VFBE companies that compete to contract with the state to supply the goods or services it needs, including eligible construction services. Next slide, please. Only one of the 4 following criteria must be met for you to be certified as a VFBE. At least 51% of the business is owned by veterans or persons on active service. We do have an individual who is in active service and they are stationed. They have been stationed permanently in Northwest Ohio, and they own a small coffee shop, and they are VFBE. At least 51% of the board of directors are persons on active service or veterans. The business is certified by the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs as a service-disabled veteran-owned small business or veteran-owned small business, and the owner meets the definition of a veteran. Or at least 10% of the business employees are veterans or in active service. So if you're a business owner and you have 30 employees and 10%, which is 3, are veterans, even though you are not the veteran, your business would qualify for a veteran-friendly business enterprise with the state of Ohio. The VFB program applies to all state agency purchases made by bid or proposal under Chapter 125 of the Ohio Revised Code, and it allows for prices on bids submitted by VFBs to exceed those prices on bids submitted by businesses not certified as VFBs by up to 5% and still be eligible for winning the award. So essentially, what that's saying is a VFB and a non-VFB could both make application for a bid, and if the VFB's prices were up to 5% higher than the non-VFB, the state looks to secure the bid with the VFBE. Scores on proposals submitted by VFB businesses up to 5% lower than the proposed scores submitted by businesses not certified as a veteran friendly may be still eligible for winning the award. The state does look to do business with VFBEs when the opportunity arises. One thing that we find that's very different, the majority of VFBEs that are certified with the state of Ohio are not state of Ohio residents. A lot of our VFBs come from California or Virginia, and these are places where there are large military installations. California has a few. Of course, we know Norfolk is in Virginia and Little Turtle. But what you find is veterans or active duty service members like to do business with veteran businesses. And once these veterans get certified, as well as all of our businesses, they get their certification logos, which they proudly display, and individuals like to do business with them. Next slide, please.
Stacy, we got a question that was a really good one.
Let's have it.
Okay, is there a set aside in the Crystal Childress asks, is there a set aside requirement for WBE firms or just MBE?
No, the set aside is only set for the MBE, and that was per code. Currently, the WBE program does not have a goal attainment attached to that. That is something that in legislative our division has been working for and requesting, but that has not came through legislation yet. So all of the goals or attainments that are attached to our programs, those have came through legislation, Jill.
All right, thank you.
Next slide, please. And this is my contact information. My name is Stacy Cornett. As I said, I'm the Deputy Chief of the Office of Business Certifications, and this is my email. You can feel free to email me at any time, and I will get back with you and respond to you. And before I leave, do we have any other questions that anyone would like to ask? If not, as I said, that is my email. I get lots of questions and I respond, and I will be responding for the next 90 days. And then my current manager, Aliana Richardson's, will be taking over as I go enjoy my happy retirement. So thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much, Stacy. I don't see any further questions coming through at the moment. And if we get any, then I'll make sure, if you don't see it today, we'll make sure you get the questions. Oh, wait.
Got one, Jill.
Are there any updates on how long certifications are taking these days?
Certifications normally are taken with the amount that we have in, and we are, I don't know how to say it. Certifications are taken anywhere from 90 to 120 days. We are short staffed, and we had been, to be totally transparent, we had been promised those positions, but with the culture right now, we're not able to fill any positions. So they are 90 to 120 days. And our two positions that we had open and we're getting ready to put on the market, they've been put on hold. So yeah. And another question just came in, Jill.
All right. The business still has to be in operation for at least a year before they apply. Is that for all of the programs, or Crystal,
That's
which
for
one
all
are
of the
you
programs.
referring
You
to?
must have been in business for 1 year before making application. And the reason for that is when you do make application, one of the requirements for the code is we will request 1 year of business taxes.
All right. Very good. I don't see any more questions in the Q&A. So we can go ahead and transition over to federal certifications. All right, will do. And I will go ahead and get that started. Just go ahead and share my screen. All right, Deja, Stacy, can you see the SBA logo? Cool. All right, just interrupt me if you see a question. When I have it on full screen, I can't see.
My training went really well. I had a lot of questions with the
All
SBA
right,
this
and you
week.
are still unmuted, Stacy. There you go. Okay. For those of you that aren't familiar, I'm Jill Nagy Reynolds. I'm with the SBA Columbus District Office. And this portion of today's webinar, we are going to focus on federal certifications. So when I speak of federal certifications, that is anywhere the federal government has a procurement office. So it's both Department of Defense and there's Shonda Harris. Okay. Well, this is my colleague, Shonda, and well, we can do one of two things. I can just keep on going, or if you would like to take over and do the presentation, that is entirely up to you. And you are on mute.
All right. Thank you so much, Jill. I'm grateful that there are two of us in the office, and wouldn't you know, we love our computers and modern technology, but sometimes we experience technical difficulties. And so I had some challenges this morning and things I'd never faced, but thank God for the help desk. So thank you, Jill. I think I'm good, but I'm going
Okay.
to pull up my
You
presentation.
have an updated one, so I'm very glad. All right, I am going to go ahead and
Okay,
uh,
then has Stacy already gone?
Stacy has gone. I mean, it couldn't have been more perfect. I was
You know
on the
what?
first slide, so
They would have thought that we planned this, Jill.
I know, right? All
Uh-huh.
right, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you then. We do have one question getting us
Okay,
started.
let's
Uh,
go ahead and if you want to help answer it, because I can't see.
okay, same question for this program, meaning the state programs. How long are federal certifications taking since the new system is online and working? So,
I can answer that.
all right, well, I'm going to go ahead and exit.
Okay,
Go ahead.
thank you.
All right.
Teamwork makes the dream work. Everyone, Jill introduced herself. My name is Shonda Harris, a business opportunity specialist with the Columbus District Office. And thanks so much. We just wanted to have a session where we're never on the same webinar. So we kind of planned this so we can be on the same webinar. But no, again, I do appreciate Jill kind of being able to help to open up, get us started. And I'm going to take over from here. But to answer the question, kind of how long is it taking? Was that the question? I
Yes,
believe
ma'am.
it's about 90 days. And so that is with the new My SBA certifications platform. It's taking about 90 days. And if you can wait, one of the slides, actually, I'll just show it and then we'll back up. Let me start sharing my screen. And then we'll go back at the beginning. Because I'm on that slide. Isn't that something? Let me get myself in presentation mode. I'm gonna turn off my camera because, and let me move this and let me know, Deja, if you can see the full screen. I don't wanna.
I'm looking at your presentation mode.
Okay, does it have the subtitles? Is there an orange
Um,
box?
yes, ma'am. Says for you to turn on.
Yeah, I don't want to turn that on. I don't know how to get rid of that. Okay, but you can see,
I'm looking at your version. I think you guys share the other screen.
share what other screen? Hang on. Screen one, screen two. Oh, you know what? Let's try this. How is
Perfect. There we
that?
go. Yep.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. I've never seen that screen one, screen two. All right, so to answer your question, great question. With the new MySBA certifications platform, this is kind of how the process works. And so for all of the certifications, and I know I'm kind of starting at the end and I'm going to go back, but for if you're applying for woman-owned, HUBZone, 8A, or veteran, all of the certifications will go once the application is submitted. It'll be submitted. And then I do believe one of the first things that they do as part of the screening process is they have a team to ensure that all of your documentation is there, that all the paperwork is there. So once they are able to determine that and ensure all the paperwork is there, if something's missing, instead of starting the application process, they will reach out to the applicant to say, hey, we're missing your taxes, we're missing, your financial statements, whatever documentation is missing. They'll do that during the screening phase. But once all of the documentation is received, then it will be moved to an analyst. And so during the analyst review, they will review all the documentation. If there are any questions that they may have, they may go back, and that RFI is request for information. So if there's any questions that they may have, or maybe looking over your documentation, something may be unclear, they may need some additional supporting documentation, the analyst will reach out and go back and forth and ask for that additional information, or ask if there are any questions that they need to be answered. So then once it goes through the analyst review, then it goes to the director decision, and a final decision or determination is made. So this entire process is taking about 90 days, about 90 days. So does that answer your question? The person that had it. Okay. And if so, I'm going to back up here. Forgive me. And we'll go ahead and get started. I know Jill had started I think she was just at the beginning, so don't have an agenda. We're just going to go ahead. I'm going to skip over all of this. And I'm even going to skip over all of this. I will leave this slide and I will speak to this slide. Now, as it relates to all of the federal certifications, sometimes you may hear set-asides, certifications, socioeconomic programs. They're all referring to federal certifications. And so with the new administration that has come in, the goals were reestablished. So I do want to make sure that I go over this really quickly. So if you're applying for the certifications, you don't have to have a certification in order to go after federal government contracts. Let me repeat that. You do not have to have a certification to go after federal government contracts. The certifications are an additional tool that can assist you in your federal government journey. So if you're a small business, you can go after federal government contracts as a small business. If you happen to be a small business that's woman-owned, and so that's an additional tool that can give you access to contracts that are set aside for woman-owned small businesses. If you're a small disadvantage, and that should be updated, this small disadvantage, the goal for that should be 5%. Under the old administration, it was 13, but at the beginning of the year, they did change that back to 5. So I do have to update my slides. So, and then with HUBZone, if your company lives in a specific area that's designated as a hub zone, what these percentages are representing is that all federal agencies, at least 23% contracts have to go towards small businesses. So if you're a small business, we know that there are large prime contractors that go after government contracts. And so at least 23% of contracts should be issued to small businesses. And this is a little breakdown of that pie. So at least 5% agencies have a goal of at least 5% of their contracts should be going to small women-owned small businesses. At least, again, that should be 5% for small disadvantaged businesses, and a subset of small disadvantaged businesses is where you'll find the 8A. And I'm sure Ms. Cornett talked about the EDGE certification at the state, encouraging diversity, growth, and equity. And 8A is equivalent to EDGE, the EDGE certification for companies that are both economically and socially disadvantaged. The EDGE certification is kind of equivalent to the 8A program. And again, I will be going over these in a little bit more detail. Hub zone businesses. So if your business is located in a hub zone, and we'll go over that in a little bit more details for those of you that aren't aware of that, and at least 23% of your, at least 30% of your, 35% of your employees live in a hub zone, then contracts, agencies, the goal for agencies that they should be spending with HUBZone small businesses is 3%. And then if you're a veteran-owned small business, 5% of contracts should be set aside as a goal for agencies to be issuing contracts to service disabled veteran-owned small businesses. So that's just a breakdown of the goals that agencies have of what they should be spending with small businesses at the federal level. And then with all small businesses, if you're looking to do business with the federal government, one of the very first things that you're going to have to do, so before you can get into submitting your application for any of the certifications, you do have to register in SAM. So as a federal vendor, sam.gov is the federal portal where all federal vendors must be registered. So when you go to the system for award management, it's going to ask you for your NAICS codes. Your NAICS codes identify what industry you have, if you have goods or services. The federal government doesn't recognize your business as a construction business, as an IT business, as a marketing business. There's a classification system, the North American Industry Classification System. There's a code that will represent your product or your service. And if you see the link here for census.gov, if you visit that, you can find the NAICS code for your specific company for whatever product or service that you have. So when you register in sam.gov, that's the vendor portal for federal vendors. When you register in there, you'll register with your NAICS codes. And also there's other information that'll ask for your business. How much revenue did your company generate over the last 5 years, and additional information. But in addition to you registering in SAM, once you input all your information, you will be issued a UEI, a unique entity identifier. And that UEI is like a social security number for your business. And that is how the federal government recognizes you. They don't recognize you as Harris Incorporated. I'm using my last name. If that was the name of my business, Shonda Harris Incorporated, they're not going to recognize me as my name, but they'll recognize me by my UEI. Once you register in SAM, you'll be issued a UEI. Also, you'll be issued a CAGE code. And this is what sam.gov looks like, and getting started in that. And it does take it takes a few days to get registered in there. So if you're looking to submit an application for any of the federal certifications, you definitely want to make sure that you do your SAM registration, and it could take maybe a good week or so. And I believe Joey Scott gave an overview of Apex Accelerator you do have issues or if you have questions registering in SAM, Apex Accelerator is a great resource to help you complete that SAM registration. But you do have to have that completed. You do have to have both your UEI and your CAGE code before you can start your certification, submitting your application for your certifications. I actually work with the company. They started their SAM registration. They didn't complete it. They were issued their UEI, but they didn't finish the SAM registration. They didn't have their CAGE code. And when they went, I believe the gentleman was a veteran, and he went to submit for his SDVOSV. He couldn't finish. He had to go back into SAM, finish up his SAM registration, get his CAGE code, and then go back to my SBA certifications. So it is important that you go through the complete SAM registration again to get both your UEI and your CAGE code before you submit your application in my SBA certifications. All right. So 8A Business Development Program. Myself and Jill Nagy Reynolds work with 8A firms directly in our portfolio. And essentially, what is the 8A program? So glad that you asked. It is a program that assists businesses that are both economically and socially disadvantaged. And it is just that, it's a business development program. So if you are doing business, let's just say with the state, you're doing business locally, and you fit the criteria, which we'll go over here shortly with the 8A program, and you're looking to advance and maybe grow your business, expand your business, perhaps the 8A program may be a good fit for you. It is, again, a 9-year program. It is equivalent to the EDGE certification at the state. And with the 8A program, that 9 years is broken up into 2 stages. On the next slide, we'll kind of go over that. But essentially, the 8A program is business development. It is kind of set up to assist you as a small business. You're looking to grow your business capacity, your capability. If you're looking to kind of grow your sales and kind of go to the next level, perhaps this certification may be good for you. With this certification, it is 9 years, and once you participate in the program, you can only participate once you are finished with the 9 years, that's it. It's kind of a one and done. But if you do get the certification, it is not guaranteed that you will necessarily get contracts. So you do want to make sure that you have a great understanding of federal government contracting and the 8A program, and also, where those 8A contracts may be located, what agencies may be a good fit for your company. All right, I don't want to go into kind of passionate about the certifications, so definitely giving a little bit more detail, so I'll try to make sure that I stay on track. All right, so I talked about the 8A program is broken down into 2 parts. So once you apply to the 8A program, and remember I showed that slide about my SBA certifications and your application going through the entire certification. Once application is deemed, okay, this particular application is approved for the 8A program, once that date of approval, that stamp of approval, let's just say it was today, March 19th, that is the start of your 8A certification, and it's 9 years from that date. And so the program term is broken up into 2 stages. The first stage is the developmental stage, which is program years 1 through 4. And then the second stage is the transitional stage, which goes from program years 5 through 9. And then in the 9th year, that is when the firm will graduate or exit from the program. So again, it's broken down into 2 stages, and there are advantages of being in the developmental stage. I'll go over that in a couple slides. All right, so what are the eligibility criteria for ownership? The owners or owners, I do have some firms that It may be 2 owners. I do have a firm where there are 3 owners. So, but at least it must be owned and controlled 51% by a U.S. citizen or citizens. And the person that may be considered the disadvantaged individual. So if there were 2 owners or 3 owners, then that person, which they may consider the disadvantaged owner, has to be both socially and economically disadvantaged. I'll go over the social disadvantage criteria in the next slide, but for the economic disadvantage, the personal net worth for that owner must be $850,000 or less. Their adjusted gross income, $400,000 or less, and then total assets, $6.5 million or less. Other requirements: the owner must have good character. They will do a background check. The company should be in business for at least 2 years. Now, you could potentially apply for the 8A program if you've been in business for 1 year. You can apply for a waiver. I do recommend, though, that you are in business at least 2 years. You do have some type of sales. Doesn't have to be federal government. If you've done business, again, at the state or local level, or even in the private sector. But one of the most important things, you definitely, even if you meet all the criteria, you do want to make sure that you have a great understanding about federal government contracting and the 8A program, who your potential customers may be, so that you can maximize that 9 years. That 9 years does go quick. And if you are trying to understand how the program works, once you've gotten in, you definitely don't want to make sure that you're wasting any time. So being in business at least 2 years or more, it does have an advantage to that. Other criteria: your company does have to be able to show that you have potential for success in the federal market to perform on contracts. Again, you don't have to have federal past performance, but they do want to see that you have performed on contracts before, whether it's been with the state government, if it's been with city government, with county, with municipalities, in the private sector. Again, they want to be able to see, hey, have you performed in your industry before? And do you have some type of past performance? And so they're going to ask for those contracts as part of the documentation that you have to submit. Do you have, also they're going to make sure, again, I said that 9 years, you can only participate in the 8A program 9 years. It's a one and done. So they will look to see if the owner has participated in the program. Maybe sometimes an owner they could have a business now, and maybe down the road they'll sell that business, and then they may come into ownership in another business. And so they will look to see if the owners have previously participated in the 8A program as an owner or with another company. So again, that is important, that you want to make sure you can only do this one time. You also do have to be small, and the SBA has a size standards chart, and that size standards chart is based on your NAICS codes. And again, those NAICS codes identify what industry you're in, if it's your products or your services. You do have to be small. And for services, your how the federal government determines if you're small or not, it's based on your gross receipts for your company. And they take the average, they take a 5-year average. If you're in a manufacturing type or related type industry, your the size standards will be based on the number of employees that you have. But if you look up your NAICS codes on the size standards chart, you visit the link that I have here, you'll be able to see how your industry is determined, if it's based on your gross receipts or if it's based on the number of employees for your industry. All right, so again, I already went over for the economic disadvantage for 8A. Your personal net worth can exceed $850,000. Getting into the program, And then during that entire 9 years, you can't exceed 850,000. Now, your personal net worth does not include equity that you may have in your business or equity that may accrue during those 9 years. We don't include that equity in your business, equity in your primary residence. You may have other property that you own, but we will look at your primary residence. So your personal net worth, it excludes that. And then also any investments that you may have in 401k. All right, for the social disadvantage, and this is an old slide here. That is an old slide. So I am going to speak to, let's just say with the social disadvantage, I believe it was in 2024, I believe, where there was a federal lawsuit. And now, in order to prove your social disadvantage, all 8A farms do have to write a, and my mind is going blank. You have to write a statement to, and I can't think of the name right now. You do have to write a personal statement to be able to determine your social disadvantage at this point. My mind is going blank right here. But I will update my slides. I can't think of it right now. I can't think of the term right now, but in order to determine your social disadvantage now, you do have to write essentially a statement to be able to prove that, at least, and have two different examples, maybe if it were in your business, or maybe what you have experienced working in your business, maybe in your college or collegiate experience, where maybe you have been disadvantaged in some type of way, but you do have to be able to prove that. I didn't realize that this is an older presentation, and so me speaking to that, but I will update the slides and how you can determine your social disadvantage for that. And you do have to be able to provide two examples. And now we do provide some examples of what those examples need to look like, what you need to include, the contents that you need to include. So I will update those slides so that it's in here so that you'll be aware. And maybe what we'll do, because I have enough time, is I will go to our website so that I can show that, because it's only 11:05 right now. Actually, Deja, so that I'm going to stop this and I'm going to go to the website now. Would that be okay?
Okay. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I'm sorry about that. I didn't realize. I'm going to stop
While you're
sharing.
navigating, can I
Yes,
throw a question at you?
absolutely.
All right, wonderful.
That is a great way to segue into me pulling up this. So go ahead. Yes.
I have a few in the chat here. One of them actually looks like it could be for state and federal. So for Ms. Cornett and Ms. Harris.
Okay.
This question asks, will any of the set aside requirements or goals for state or federal go away due to the recent DEI executive orders?
This is Stacy Cornett speaking on behalf of the state programs. At this time, we don't have any validation of that. We have no knowledge of our programs dissipating, so we cannot speak to that right now. We will just have to see what happens. Legislation dictates our programs.
Great. And for federal government, with our certifications, we are protected by the Small Business Act. And so all of the goals that I showed for veteran-owned, for HUBZone, those were reset and those will still apply. So for HUBZone, I believe, let me pull back up the slide for that. HUBZone, I believe, is 3%. For woman-owned, it's 5%. For 8A, it's 5%. HUBZone is 3%. And then for service disabled, it's 5%. But those goals are still good for the agencies. And so, yeah, and that does not have anything to do with DEI. Yeah, so does that answer your question?
I think so. I got a second one here. This one is for SBA. For SBA issues with the certification applications, what's the best route to receive assistance? I was working with someone through the messaging center with issues on my application, and then my application was closed for inactivity, and I didn't realize that there was a difference and that was not an SBA rep on the platform. So, again, what's the best route to receive assistance with the SBA certification apps?
SBA certification for what certification? Does the person mention?
Did not. Did not.
Okay. The best thing, great question. So you probably already started submitting your application. I would just recommend that you call myself or Jill if you are experiencing any issues with submitting your application. And if the person is on, if they want to come off chat, but you can call myself or Jill Nagy Reynolds and we can help you kind of navigate. Typically, I recommend, especially if it's for 8A, before you apply, that you would contact Jill or myself, and then we can kind of walk you through the process, kind of answer some questions. Again, because the criteria that I'm laying out, just because you may meet all of the criteria, may not necessarily mean that you may want to apply just right away. Again, because it is a 9-year program. And let's just say if you meet the criteria, but you have no understanding about federal government contracting, you don't know what agencies are your potential customers. Are they buying what you're selling? So I recommend that you have a good understanding about both the 8A program and federal government contracting before you apply, again, so that you can maximize those 9 years. At the end of the day, I will say, though, it is a business decision. You can do whatever you want, but we work with firms on a day-to-day basis, and you do want to make sure that you're as prepared as possible going into it, because that 9 years, once it's finished, it's done. So again, just reaching out to us, we can work with you, answer questions, provide suggestions on what you can do to prepare before you apply. Does that help?
That same strategy, yes, ma'am.
8A. Say that again.
The same strategy for support, reaching out to you and or Jill, they could use that for WASB, veteran,
for all of them
as well.
Yes. And in addition, they can also reach out to our Apex accelerators. Great resource partners. Jill and I used to be Apex counselors prior to doing this. So in addition to us, Apex accelerator counselors probably can answer questions as it relates to all of the certifications, but probably specifically for 8A, I would recommend that you can start with an Apex counselor, but then reaching out to Jill or myself, and then we can kind of help you navigate and give you some additional insight with 8A. But Apex, yeah, you can definitely start with them as well. All right, so let me stop sharing. Did I stop sharing my screen with my slides?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now, hang on. All right, so let me share. I'm going to our website right here. So for social disadvantage narrative, you do have to write. Can you see my screen? I'm going to turn off the camera because and I need to move this. So for the social disadvantage narrative, you have to write for the social component, you have to be economically and socially disadvantaged. For that social component, you do have to write what's called a social disadvantage narrative. And so the guide for writing that. Don't you just love when we have new,
It's only when I want to show you that it doesn't work.
well, and sometimes when we have a transition,
Mhm.
things get moved. Things get moved, and you don't know where to find those things and they get shifted. So I can at another time provide that. I think it's through Certify. Here we go. All right, so for the social disadvantage narrative, I'm glad that we have a little time. It is on here somewhere. Just give me a second. They've kind of shifted things and we're still in between platforms. The certify.sba.gov was the platform that 8A applications previously were submitted. We are still using that platform to process 8A firms' annual review. So once you get in, it is a 9-year program, but every year you have to essentially recertify. We want to make sure that you're still small, that you're still compliant. So you do what's called an annual review. So once you get in, even though it is a 9-year program, it's good for 9 years. Each year, Jill and I will look at all of our firms to make sure that they are still small, they are still compliant. And so they go through an annual review process. Right now, that annual review process is still done in the older system, Certify. They have not transitioned that part to the My SBA certifications platform yet. So that's why I'm going back in here to look for the information about the social disadvantage narrative. And should be, is it under here? And if I can't find it, I am going to move on and I will find it for you and I will update my slides. And forgive me again. Sometimes things get moved and we don't even know that they get moved. Can you believe that? So I think what I'm going to do, because it used to be out here, but I have no idea where it is. So I'll have to find it. So again, you will have to, if I don't see it on here, I'm going to move on. How to write your social disadvantage narrative. Let me do it in here. Social disadvantage. I don't want to see a PowerPoint. That's a PowerPoint. All right. So there are tips that they do provide for small businesses and how you write your social disadvantage narrative. They do give examples for, I don't believe this is, I think this is for submitting your application. And now here we go. I don't think this is, I think this is for the application actually. So what I'll do again is I'll update my slides and look for the criteria. I think it's like who, what, when, where, how. And then there are different examples that we can give. So I'll put that in there. So again, in order to qualify for your social, for the social disadvantage, you do have to write a narrative and essentially be able to explain, hey, I've been disadvantaged in some type of way. Maybe if it was in your field, let's just say if you're a woman and you have a construction company, maybe because it's been maybe primarily owned and controlled by men running construction firms. And so now I'm a woman-owned company coming into this particular field. And so I could have examples that I can write a narrative to say, hey, I've been disadvantaged in the construction industry, maybe going after contracts. Maybe it was, if you were growing up, maybe in education or, but you do have to provide, I believe, 2 examples and then give a narrative for both and give examples for both. And they do have to, I think they do have to have occurred here in the United States. But I will give more information and update my slides for that. So let me go back to my presentation. I can't see. And Deja, let me know. This is different. I've never seen the screen 1, screen 2. Okay, here we go. I think this is it.
You got it.
Okay, but I can't see my presentation now. Hang on. Hang on. Is it the full screen?
Yep, I'm looking at a full screen of your 8A BD program benefit slide.
Program benefits. That is, okay, here. But my apologies, because I am not seeing, something is not in sync with my, here we go now, let's see. You are screen sharing. I don't know what screen. Okay, 8A program benefits. Deja?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, hang on. I'm sorry, this is.
If you'd like, you could email it to me and I can drive your slide.
Is the next one HUBZone?
HUBZone.
Okay, hang on. Let me go over this. All right. This just a little different today. All right. 8A program benefits. I do appreciate everybody's patience. This is just a little different. I've never seen a couple of these screens, but nevertheless, we are going to go through this, and I'm grateful that we have time. So 8A program benefits. So if you remember, I mentioned that there are 2 different stages in the 8A program. There's the developmental stage and the transition stage. So one of the benefits of being in the developmental stage, the first 4 years of the program, you are eligible to get an unlimited amount of sole source contracts. There are 2 different types of 8A contracts. Sole source, which means an agency can give you a direct award, and that's up to, if it's for services, 4.5 million. If it's for manufacturing, 7.5 million. That's what's considered sole source. Anything above that is considered competitive. So anything above 4.5 million for services, anything above 7.5 million for manufacturing is competitive. So during those first 4 years in agency, you can get an unlimited amount of 8A contracts sole source. Competitives, you can go after competitives all day long. But the difference between competitive and sole source don't require what's considered a J&A, justification and approval. So a contracting officer doesn't have to say, hey, I want to choose this particular company for this. They don't have to give a justification or approval to give a sole source. They can just do a direct award to your company. Also, a benefit of being in the 8A program, the Mentor Protege program. It's not just for the 8A program, but all small businesses can take advantage of the Mentor Protege program. So if you are looking to expand your company, you're doing business at the federal and state level, and you want to start entering into the federal market, maybe you don't have federal past performance, and you're looking for a mentor to help show you or to help you navigate, you can definitely do that. We do not, Jill and myself, or here at the SBA, we don't provide a mentor for you. We don't help you look for a mentor. That's something that you would do on your own. And the Mentor Protege program is handled by SBA headquarters. You can submit an application for that, but go on the SBA website and look at more information about the Mentor Protege program. Also, you do get business development training through the Empower to Grow program, and you're also able to apply for a joint venture. So a joint venture is essentially two companies coming together into a marriage. So two companies coming together, they essentially marry, they become a new entity. So that joint venture has a new name, has its own UEI, its own bank account, but the 8A firm has to be at least 51% 51% managing member of that joint venture in order for it to be an 8A joint venture. And one of the beauties of joint ventures is both companies that are coming together to form the joint venture. Let's just say if you had a mentor, or if you're coming together with a company that does have federal past performance, that joint venture can take on the past performance from both parties. So if you don't have any federal past performance, but your joint venture partner does, then that joint venture will now have the past performance of the company that has that federal past performance. And that joint venture can go after both sole source and competitive contracts. All right, I'm going to keep moving, so I won't get bogged down. That's essentially it for the 8A program. And I know there's a couple little hiccups. Are there any questions, Deja, really quick before I move on to HUBZone?
Not at this time, no ma'am.
All right, and again, I do appreciate everyone's patience with that. And again, I'll update my slides. All right, HUBZone, moving right along. HUBZone, historically underutilized business zone. So it's basically designed to help small businesses that may be in certain communities that may have a low median household or high unemployment rate, or a combination of both. So to help companies in these areas to be able to go after federal contracts. And so I'm going to keep going. Essentially, there are two criteria for the HUBZone program. Again, with all of the certifications, those that are applying, the owners of the companies, it has to be at least 51% owned and controlled. And I'm sure Ms. Cornett, you heard that with Ms. Cornett's presentation with the state certifications, but that is important as you're going after these certifications, is we look at the documentation to see who owns and controls it. Has to be owned and controlled by a U.S. citizen. And then also it does have to be a small business. So again, going back to those size standards, your NAICS codes, your number of employees, it does have to be small based on your NAICS code. And essentially with the HUBZone, that principal office has to be located in a designated HUBZone area. And I'm going to show you a map on how we determine if your business is in a HUBZone area. And then also the next important criteria is the company has to be in the principal office has to be in a designated HUBZone area. And then at least 35% of the employees of that business must also reside in a HUBZone area. Doesn't have to be the same HUBZone that the company is in, but they do have to live in a HUBZone area. And so in order to determine that, here is a map, and you can visit this link. And then if you plug in your address, if you see up top to the left, that search box that has West Virginia, if you plug in your address, the address to the company, or if you plug in the address for your employees, you see the legend that's in the bottom. Your address, once you plug it in and you hit enter, it will pull up and it will let you know if it's a qualified HUBZone area or not. And so again, in order to determine HUBZone for your business, so if a company is looking to say, hey, we want to put our business in a HUBZone area, you do want to make sure that you put that address of that potential area that you're looking at to make sure that it is in a HUBZone area. And then also that 35% of your employees live in a HUBZone area. So that may be something that you want to designate for your HR department to make sure that at least 35% of your employees are living in a HUBZone area, and that's updated at all times. All right, moving right along, that's it for HUBZone essentially. And I'm just kind of giving you a quick and dirty overview of the certifications and the criteria. So next is WOSB, EDWOSB, Woman Owns Small Business Certification and Economically Disadvantaged Woman Owned Certification. And we're just going to jump into, we're going to go to the next slide for the eligibility requirements. So for WOSB, again, here's that 51% owned and controlled. That's for all of the certifications. And so with this one, it could be maybe one woman who could be an owner, or it could be 2 or 3 women. But the company does have to be at least 51% owned and controlled by a woman or women. And the woman owner or women owners have to have the managerial experience for that particular industry. So if it's construction, it couldn't be that, okay, you have women owners and then maybe you have male employees, but the women owners do have to have the managerial experience for that industry, for that particular area of expertise for the company. The woman owner has to hold the highest officer position. So if that's the CEO, the owner, they do have to have the highest position that they hold. They must manage the day-to-day operations of the company. So they can't just, in essence, maybe hold the title, but then if you look, they will look to see, okay, who's actually running the company. So they do have to have that management experience and be able to run the company on a day-to-day basis. And then most importantly, the NAICS codes. So again, those NAICS codes identify the industry that you're in, whatever products or services that you're providing. And there is a list, if you go to the SBA's website, I think I may have it on another slide, but there's a list that will identify what NAICS codes are identified as WOSB and which ones are identified as EDWOSB. And I believe there are only a certain amount of NAICS codes that are deemed WOSB or EDWOSB. And if your company does not fit within one of those NAICS codes, then unfortunately, you won't be able to apply for the WOSB or EDWOSB certification. Your company still will be woman-owned, but the certifications are identified by NAICS codes. Unlike the 8A program, where you do have to be in business at least 2 years, you don't have to be in business. Essentially, you could have started your business last week, and then you can apply for the woman-owned certification. As opposed to 8A, you do have to be in business at least 2 years. So there's no minimum time in business requirement. So for the economically disadvantaged woman-owned criteria, they do have to meet all of the criteria for woman-owned. In addition to that, the personal net worth has to be less than $750,000. Their the 3-year average income has to be less than $350,000, and then all of their assets have to be less than $6 million. All right, so you can apply for the WOSB or EDWOSB certification on your own, and this is also old. That is the old website where you submit where applications were submitted. But again, now all certification applications are submitted through the My SBA certifications web portal. But you can submit as your own, on your own, or you can go through a third-party certifier to submit your WOSB application. And there are 4 third-party certifiers that have been approved by SBA headquarters. They're listed here. They can submit your application for the WOSB certification. So if you do go through a third-party certifier, there is a fee for that. There is a fee that you do have to pay, but they can definitely assist you with that process. All right, again, with all of the certifications, as I mentioned, you do have to register in SAM. But once you're registered in SAM, you have your UEI, which is like your social security number for your business, and your CAGE code. You can submit your application through the My SBA certification portal. Deja, are there any questions about HUBZone, WOSB?
Not at this time. We got a question just checking to see if this slide deck and other information would be listed on or shared out later.
It will be. Once I update it, you don't want it with, definitely don't want it with old links and old information, but yes, the updated one, you definitely will get it submitted. And then what they are doing is they are uploading those to the website. So where you went to register for the webinars, I do believe there's a list of all of the webinars. So the webinars that we've done to date, it will list them. And then at the bottom, there is a link for you to access the recording. And then there's a link for you to access the slides. So once I update this, it will be posted to the website.
I did get one, just looking
Yes.
for a refresher on the certification that's based on NAICS codes. They asked if you could just give another synopsis, explain again on the certification that's based on NAICS codes.
Okay, the certifications, are you talking about for women-owned?
I think so. I know it's not necessarily based on NAICS codes, but they are
Yeah.
built into that one. But yes, that's what she said.
Okay, I think that's okay. Great question. So essentially, with the woman-owned certification, there are, and the number may have changed, but there are. The last time I knew, there were like 92 different industries. 92. That may be for WOSB. I think it may be. And if Joey knows, he can chime in, maybe 317 or so different industries that the SBA have deemed are either underrepresented by women or severely underrepresented by women. And so those 317 NAICS codes, the SBA has put on a list, and then they're broken down by WOSB and EDWOSB. And you know what? I'm going to stop. And I think I have enough time where I can share it. Hopefully, the website, hang on, I'll be able to find it. So I'll show you real quick where there is, again, there are, I believe, 317 different NAICS codes, and then they're broken down which ones are underrepresented by women. And that may be for WOSB, and then severely underrepresented, the different industries that may be for EDWOSB. And then there's a list of NAICS codes. So let's find that. Great question. Hang on, I'm just going to the website. I'm going to find it, and then I will share my screen. And hopefully, okay, WOSB, it'll be easy to find, because sometimes finding things on here is not always the easiest. Okay, local assistance tools.
I found the eligible NAICS for the women-owned Small Business
Good.
Federal Contracting Program, and I did go ahead and drop that in the chat
Okay.
for everyone
I'm going to
to
click
take a
on
look
it.
at.
Thank you, Deja.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Download. All right, here we go. Oh, you know what? No. I don't want to download it. Let me just share it and then you can see and then they can download it. But at least this will be good. All right. Now let me share my screen. Thank you so much, Deja. I think this is it. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that's not. Eligible NAICS. Eligible NAICS.
Is this
That's
the
me.
website they should be going to, Shonda?
Thank you. Bless you. Yes, I have it up, but I don't know why I'm struggling with. Thank you. So
Yeah.
if you look on here, and if you scroll up, okay, there it is. So I said 700. So there are 733 eligible industries. 626 are limited competition for WOSB and 107 are for EDWOSB. So these are the industries that the agency said have, hey, they are, there's not enough representation of women in these industries. And so they have outlined, and here are the NAICS codes. So there's a list, and then you can download that and you can bring this into an Excel spreadsheet. So essentially, even though you may be a woman and you may own the business, you may run the business, it's essentially based on the NAICS codes for the certification. So if you don't find your NAICS codes that align with that's a WOSB or EDWOSB, then you can't go after the certification. Now, your company, you're still woman owned. It's still owned by a woman and operated by a woman. But in order to get the certification, you do have to have one of the eligible WOSB NAICS codes or one of the eligible EDWOSB NAICS codes. And again, you can find it on the list. Does that make sense? Whoever asked the question, does that help? And then again, this is for federal government contracting. Does that help?
I didn't see anything else come through the chat, so I
Okay.
think so.
Okay. Awesome. All right. We are just about, yeah, I've never seen this before with the screen one, screen two. That is just weird for my for my presentation. I think we were here. Hang on. Stop sharing.
You had it there for a second. I saw your WASB eligibility process.
Yeah, I just don't understand. I've never had this before where there's multiple screens. Well, I know there are multiple screens that you can choose from, but when I go in to share it and I choose it, I can't see the full presentation on my end. So that's why I keep going back out. It's the weirdest thing. Maybe this one, PowerPoint slideshow. But see this one, but on my screen, it's showing federal set aside SBA certifications programs. What screen is it for you?
WASB eligibility process.
See, yeah, that's.
If you minimize that screen, I wonder if there's one that mirrors what I'm looking at here.
Oh, there we go. I had several different things open. Okay, there we go. Thank you, Deja. Awesome. All right. So WOSB eligibility process, right?
That's
That's the
correct.
screen. Okay, awesome. I think that's it for WOSB. And we are good on time. Veteran owned, service disabled, veteran owned. All right, I'm going to kind of go through all that. We don't necessarily need to know all of that. Essentially, the eligibility criteria, business owner must be a veteran or a service disabled veteran as established by the CFR. So you must have served in the military, been discharged, and you do get what's called a DD 214. You do have to have that documentation in order to substantiate that you're a veteran or service disabled veteran. And again, that CFR, the CFR references, if somebody wants to look that up, but you definitely do have to have that paperwork in order to determine that you're a veteran or, again, a service disabled veteran. And with this certification, you do have to be registered in the VA's website. And I think I'll get to that on the next slide. But as I mentioned, with all the certifications, you do have to be 51% owned and controlled by at least one or more veterans. And I do believe also for the certification, if a spouse of a veteran, so if there was a veteran, they owned a company and maybe, unfortunately, the veteran owner passed away, the spouse of that veteran also, I believe they can also operate the company.
Shonda,
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I got another question that came through here. If I am a veteran-owned, service-disabled, or WASB certified business, and I expand, add another NAICS code, do I have to get recertified?
Great question. Okay, so when you register in SAM, the System for Award Management, that's where all federal vendors are registered, you register with the NAICS codes of your company. So what SAM will ask you is to identify what is your primary NAICS code. And essentially, what is your primary NAICS code? They're just saying, where is the majority of your revenue coming from? So you may have one NAICS code, two NAICS codes, three NAICS codes, but you will have to identify where's your primary NAICS code, and then you can have additional NAICS codes. Those additional NAICS codes will be what other products or services that you offer. You can always add NAICS codes. You can always remove NAICS codes, but you will always have to have a primary. Where are the majority of your sales or your revenue? Where is that coming from? That's always going to be your primary NAICS code. Now, if you happen to add NAICS codes or remove NAICS codes, your certification isn't going to be based on that. The certification is based on your primary NAICS code, where the majority of your revenue is coming from. So if you add NAICS codes, you can always add NAICS codes to SAM. You can remove them, but you do not have to. It won't affect your certification. Now, given or speaking that, you can't remove your primary. Now, some companies may change their primary. I've worked with firms that maybe got into the 8A program, and let's just say they start off as and a common one, had a company that maybe started off doing like snow removal, and they did that for so many years, and then they eventually changed to janitorial. So their primary NAICS code did change from like snow removal, landscaping. Maybe they did landscaping in the summer, snow removal in the winter. They did that for so many years. And then they started picking up contracts where they were doing janitorial. And it got to the place where now the janitorial business, the janitorial contracts were the primary source of income from this company. And then they stopped doing snow removal and landscaping altogether. and then they just became janitorial. So their primary NAICS code changed to janitorial. Now, in that instance, you won't have to recertify, but you probably would have to touch base with maybe SBA headquarters if something like that had to change. But I don't believe you have to go back and recertify if you had to, change your primary NAICS code. But as far as you adding NAICS codes or removing NAICS codes, that's not going to impact your certification. All right. Was there another question or that was it?
That was it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So for veteran, again, you do have to be small based on your NAICS codes. The company does have to be owned and controlled by 51%. That 51% owner has to be the veteran or service disabled veteran. And in addition to being registered in SAM, there is a fact sheet, which I've removed that. I'll remove that. But in addition to being registered in SAM, veterans also have to be registered with the Veterans Administration, the VA. They do have to be registered with the VA. And the VA does have to, I believe, your primary place of residence, all of that does have to be updated as part of the requirements for your veteran certification. And my SBA certifications, where do you submit? I was able to get, I think I did show you that slide. So essentially the certifications at sba.gov. I have found, I've worked with several companies that have contacted our office. They've run into a couple issues trying to submit their application. The help desk has been extremely beneficial in helping to navigate with those questions and helping to help small businesses get through or work through challenges. There have been a couple of times where there have been some issues that they couldn't help to resolve. And so individuals have contacted me and I've reached out to some people at headquarters to help work through a couple of issues. But the My SBA certifications platform is running pretty smoothly. I do know once you visit the site, you do have to clear, I think, the cache or your cookies on your computer. I know a few companies had run into some issues with that. But again, if you do visit the site, you start the application. If you run into issues, you can call the help desk. You can call our office. I do know Apex Accelerator also working with small businesses to help them. And as I said, that process, what happened to that? There it is. That process is taking about 90 days once you submit your application. It does have to go through all the steps. And once you submit the application, again, if some documentation is missing, that 90-day time clock doesn't start until they get all of the documentation. So that next step, that screening process doesn't start until all of the documentation is submitted. Once it's submitted, then the screening process will start in that 90 days. But it does seem to be running pretty smoothly. Again, if there are any issues, you can reach out to myself, Jill Nagy Reynolds, be happy to work with you. But again, that 800 number I've found, because essentially if you called into me and you were running into an issue, I don't even know what the new platform kind of looks like. So I actually called the help desk with the small business on the other line. And so I just let them know, hey, I'm calling from the district office, and they're able to walk us through and help navigate, help that company navigate whatever the issue is. That is essentially it for me. Again, if there are any questions, there's my contact information. I'm going to stop sharing and see if there are any questions. I do appreciate everybody's patience. I know there were a couple hiccups I need to update a couple slides. I hate that I missed Stacy's presentation. It's been a while since I've heard the state present, but I do have the chat up. I don't see any questions. Any questions? And again, that's a quick and dirty overview. I'm thinking my camera's on and it's not. Of the certifications, a quick run through. If there are any other questions.
So far, we don't have any other questions come through. I
Okay.
did see a small business owner kind of testimonial from their process in the new portal. They mentioned that they submitted post restructure of the website on January 9th, and they've made it through and they're in the final review stage. So they are looking at about 90 days for processing
That's what
as a WASB.
I have found. Thank you so much for saying that. Whoever said that, I do appreciate that testimonial. I know there were some issues with the WOSB applications with the old system. Just several of them got, tied up and there was a backlog. And so I know they were cutting down on that backlog at the end of the year, but with the new system, I have found in working with several companies that have called into the office, it seemed to have been working pretty smoothly. I know they're still working out some kinks because it is a new system, but they seem to have, they have a team that actually works on processing the applications. And then they have an IT team that works on the back end to address the system issues. And then there's also a team once the application is submitted, there's a screening team. So if there are questions for WOSB, if there are questions for 8A or HUBZone, there are individuals with that expertise that they can go to. So the applications are going through pretty smoothly. So I'm great to hear that somebody gave that testimonial. Thank you. If there are not additional questions, I know I'm used to closing out, but Deja, if you want to close out, because being a presenter today, I think I'm going to let you do the honors today.
Teamwork makes the dream work. I can definitely help you out
Teamwork
here.
makes the dream work.
Well, of course,
Mhm.
thank you to all of our presenters and our attendees for joining us today. We hope you found this session valuable. As a reminder, you can find additional resources and register for the upcoming webinars at www.ohiobusinessmatchmaker.com. Click on that webinar registration tab at the top of the homepage. We have a really robust schedule of training
Yes.
sessions covering a wide range of topics. So please be sure to check them out, register for the future events so that you can continue expanding your knowledge and opportunities. Also, just to mention, registration for suppliers and exhibitors is now open. So definitely encourage you to take advantage of the early bird pricing. There's a few days left of that, so register today. Lastly, again, you can register by going to www.ohiobusinessmatchmaker.com. Again, click that event registration tab on the top of the homepage. Thank you all for attending today, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar.
Bye-bye. Thank you.